Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think sometimes there should be more of a debate. I would be concerned about who is the group or who are the people who determine those benchmarks, because quite often we hear about programs that are so leftist that we would not approve of them if we knew about them in advance, such as we have major universities that will boo people off of the stage, but when it comes to their people, then of course they've got full reign of the stage. So I have concern. I mean, I know that a lot of good things can happen with the research, but a lot of times when we hear about what the programs are, we wouldn't agree with them.
I think you're right. There's a lot of research done at universities that I think some of us would categorize wasteful spending. I think this bill does open it up to other universities within the state. Instead of UT, I heard the other day UT gets a huge percentage of all of it that is available. And like none of the other universities are getting any of it, but a lot of it's useless malarkey. And if it's going to be out there, I'd rather see it diverse and not locked up in Austin at one big giant institution. So, but since there's so much lousy research being done, useless research being done, in my opinion, I'm going to vote against it.
Don, do you have any information about how funds from that National Research University Fund might be divested or distributed?
Texas Tech is in a position to gain a lot of funds. Texas A&M and the University of Texas won't be able to access this money. This is going to be new money that's going to be there for some other universities. And when people go to making the decision about where they want to put their research dollars, we're just passing up money that's going to go somewhere else. It's not that maybe the research isn't going to be done. It's going to be done somewhere, more than likely. Whether it's good, bad, or mediocre, it's probably going to be done if there's somebody out there that's going to fund it. And so why don't we touch those dollars here, and we might be able to guide that research in the direction that we'd like to go, because we know what these universities are.
Do more research and waste more money that we don't have. Is that right?
Well, I can't, say, right or wrong. That's somebody's call as to whether it's good, bad, or mediocre. But certainly there's a lot of good research out there that a lot of universities would be able to get now that they're not able to get, simply because they're not a tier 1 college or university. And certainly, yes, we're wasting more money. Maybe we are. Most of the money's going to come from grants from people that's wanting the research done. You don't just go out and say, hey, today I'm going to decide I'm going to research this. You look for somebody that wants the research done, and the research is done, and they're going to fund that. Somebody's going to put the grant somewhere, and it just as well to be going to a Texas school as to go to a Northwestern school or a Northeastern school or wherever. Certainly, I'd rather see it spent in Texas than spent in California. Pass the amendment, then the legislature is going to have to come up with the money. And if they don't come up with the money, then it's not going to be funded. So, it's the amendment's there. If the money becomes available, then it can be funded. If the money's not available, then it won't be funded.
Do we have any other questions or comments about Proposition 4?
Yes, I have a question. Was talking about where the money is coming from. He mentioned that the money was coming from grants. If the money is coming from corporate grants, that's one thing. But if the money is coming out of the legislature, that's something altogether different. So where is the money coming from?
Certainly, the legislature is going to have to fund part of it, but what I'm being told is that the Texas Research Incentive Program to provide matching grants for donations, so the donation is going to come and then the state's going to match the money from the donation.
But the way this reads, it says transferring the balance of the higher education fund to the National Research University Fund. It's leaving the state of Texas and going to a national, and any money we have set aside for our own major research universities will not be used. It has to go to the national, and therefore it could easily be many other colleges that are already receiving national funds.
Let me give you a little bit more information maybe to answer some of those funding questions. This is the analysis of the bill from the Texas Legislative Council. And it indicates that the proposed amendment would allow the legislator to dedicate state revenue, such as that revenue presently allocated to the Dormant Permanent Higher Education Fund, the HEF, to the National Research Universities Fund credit, and to appropriate in each state fiscal biennium all or a portion of the total return on all investment assets of the fund to carry out the purposes for which the fund is established. So the portion of the total return available for appropriation would be the amount determined by the legislature. So obviously that's amount that's to be determined later, or by an agency designated by statute as necessary to provide as nearly as practicable a stable and predictable stream of annual distributions to eligible state universities and to maintain over time the purchasing power of the fund investment assets.
Sounds to me like then we're giving the money to the federal, some federal agency, and the way they spend money, I'd say definitely no.
Well, to make it clear, now this does indicate that the revenue presently allocated to the Dormant Permanent Higher Education Fund will be diverted to this fund. The problem is it doesn't limit the money that's going to that fund, to the funds that are currently in this dormant fund. So the state could actually allocate more money from its revenue in addition to this to allocate for that fund. But this is where the contemplation is to get the money. Any other questions about Proposition 4? Any other comments? Thank you, Clint. If anybody wants to take a longer look at this information, it's published right here if you want to hang around a few minutes and read some of it. Proposition 5. The constitutional amendment authorizing the legislature to authorize a single board of equalization for two or more adjoining appraisal entities that elect to provide for consolidated equalization. The folks that are for it are mostly rural counties, like we have, often have a limited pool of qualified and willing candidates to serve on appraisal review boards. Proposition 5 would allow counties to form consolidated shared boards of equalization, allowing those candidates to benefit from shared talent and higher quality appraisal review boards. And according to the House Select Committee on Property Tax Relief and Appraisal Reform, the proposition would expand the pool of qualified people to serve on the board. So the general notion is in some rural counties where there's just not enough qualified people on that particular appraisal district's board, they can have an agreement to consolidate with neighboring appraisal board so that they can share pool talent rather than have to limit their talent from their own district. It's a commonsensical approach, really. Those who are against it, according to the House Research Organization, the proposition does not go far enough in allowing opportunities for appraisal districts to combine their efforts. Many rural counties have a difficult time staffing all levels and aspects of their central appraisal districts. The legislature should allow and encourage these districts to consolidate functions by interlocal agreements. If the counties see benefits and want to form these agreements, the state should let them. So I think basically both sides are saying it's a good idea. Those who are for this proposition are saying it's good because it gives you the opportunity to pull talent. Those who are against it just say it's not going far enough. But everybody's generally for the notion.